right, we're gonna see Objective1TS up here and let's get started. Oh, okay, so first thing, when you spawn, you have this little green circle. So just for maximum efficiency, always make sure this green circle is on the other side of the mechs. You had to drop here and then walk. It's like half a second, but all those little things add up. So when you drop in, always drop with the middle of what you want to build, the first thing you want to build in the center there so that there's no wasted time. Let's go like ×2. You don't go wind here, do you? Oh, okay. So two things. First, for pretty much every map, your initial start, there's either two things you can do. You can either go triple max into solar, and you'll have enough starting energy and your commander generates 25 E a second. And so you won't stall if you go max, max, max solar. Alternatively, if it's not a great solar map, or if it's a really good wind map, you can go max, max, wind, max, wind, wind, wind. In this case, because you look and you see the wind is bad anyway, I think it's probably better if you just go max, max, max solar. But that's more efficiency, because if you think all this time that these aren't going, right, that's basically 4 metal a second. And that adds up, especially if you're trying to tech, because metal is always what restricts you when you're backline teching. Okay, so you got those. So like here, if you had gone solar to start, the wind has been at 2.8 like this whole time, right? So you've just been completely metal stalled. But if you'd started solar, you would have had the E and your lab would have been done much, much faster, right? And you wouldn't still be E stalling here, right? Like your lab isn't even finished and he's already made scouts to go out. So just always remember to look at the E and then try to do a more efficient one where you drop, you don't need to walk, you tag all three, you go solar, or you go max, max wind, max wind, wind, wind. Okay, I don't hate your initial scout, it's kind of cool, but when you're trying to fully maximize, a lot of times it's better if you just don't even have that scout, because that 17 metal and the time before your first constructor comes out really delays. You have a pawn here as well. This is a defensive thing, which I get, but you also probably don't need this, right? If you had had an initial con come out, the con could already be going and taking these. Right? If you take these, every second that you don't have this max, you're basically losing 2 metal a second. I don't hate the las play, especially because I think you want to eat these rocks, but I also think it makes more sense to get the constructor out first so that he can grab these. Or what's probably better is if you give this constructor to your air player so that he can build arm air or arm wind, and you get a transport, and then you can just have your next con boost this lab and you can fly your commander. He builds really quick, and then that's more efficient. But you can do it with constructors too. A lot of times I think it makes sense to go like con and back, con and back, con and back, and have like multiple constructors do it so that you can get the metal as quickly as possible. When you build wind like this, never group like that. You want to do groups of 2, because if you do a group like this and one of these dies, this whole thing will chain all the way through. So instead, if you just do a row of 2 however long, and then a space, and then a row of 2 however long, and then a space, and then a row of 2 however long, if there's nothing in between these spaces, they won't chain. So instead, just leave that. E-storage is good. I think at this point when I tech, I'd probably go nano first and then e-storage, because you did that, but I guess you're all wind, so the e-storage is there and I don't hate it. Is your commander trapped or no? Okay. Whew. So like these 2 mexes are still unclaimed, right? And I think if you had claimed them like a minute ago, you know, both those mexes, that'd be 120, that'd be like 240 metal. You'd have a lot more metal. So I think, I'm pretty sure you nuke this game is what you said. So I'm assuming you're nuke rushing. Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. All right. So you pretty much never want to do what you guys are doing here, which is dual tech like this on a map where you're this close together. You can kind of make an argument for like them teching, because you want to be able to build T2 units sooner if they don't want to eat their lab. But because you guys are right here, there's literally no reason for you to go T2 when you can just buy it from him. In fact, it makes more sense for you to just drop down like advanced solars instead, and then just send him the metal. And if anything, it slows you both down, because instead of you dropping 2800 into your own T2 lab, if you just give it to him, he can immediately drop T2 for you. He probably drop 2 T2 for you, and he can give T2 to everyone else. You'd also have the metal to up your mexes right away. And then like go AFU, or I don't know, I guess you might A solar. I guess you could fusion if you want a nuke rush too, but I'm not a big fan of a fusion tech on glitters. Whoa. Okay. So next thing, when you tech efficiently, you never need metal storage if you're doing it like by the letter. The reason you don't need metal storage is that your T2 lab acts as your metal storage, and the buildings you have act as metal storage. So like here, see, he hasn't detonated his commander yet, and he's eating this, he's at 0. So when he eats this, the 700 or the 650 is gonna go in there, and he won't need the storage. And then when he detonates his commander and he loses the 500, as he's reclaiming it, it'll all go in here. So this 330 is kind of wasted. You don't really need it unless you know you're gonna overflow. The other reason why you never want to detonate this early when you already have so much metal is that your commander gives you resources, right? Your commander is 2 metal a second and 25 energy a second. And if you look at your income, you're at what, 10? You're at 11. So that's almost 20% of your income that's gone every second that you remove your commander. And it's 10% of your, well, it's less of that, but a lot of your metal income is gone. So you want to keep them alive as long as possible. Oh, and you canceled it. Okay, cool. So you recognized it, which is a good play, right? You're like, oh, he's going T2. It's going to be faster. Let me give him, you gave him metal so you can get your T2 first. That's awesome. Generally speaking, I think it's always better if you can just get a transport, because T2 cons walk so slow. Vehicles are a little better, but cons are so slow. So if you just buy a transport from this guy, 74 metal, 1500 energy, you just have it waiting right here. Then as soon as it's done, you can just pick it up and drop, drop, drop. And I would even consider, because these are all in range, you could have a con here, and then your other one here. Because you are building, I'd build even more A solars actually right now. Because you want to go straight to fusion, or you want to go straight to A fusion generally. So I'd either be building more wind, or I'd be building solars, A solars. Yeah, so see how long this walk is? If you have a transport, you just pick him up and you can just drop him here, here, and here. And then if you have cons here, he drops the blueprint, the con keeps it up, and then your nanos can just build, build, build. Are you... What are you doing here? Are you gonna go fusion before? So this is not ideal. I'd at least tap a couple mexes before you drop that fusion. I know you're worried that you're gonna overflow, but if your con's here, you can tap all these mexes and you can get these up, because your biggest issue with this tech is always going to be metal. So before you make a ton of additional energy, you always want to make the metal first, because if you have metal, you can just make A solars or make basic solars until you have enough energy for anything else, right? They require 0 energy to build. So if you have a ton of metal, you can just drop basic solars and reclaim them later. It's not a big deal. You can't do that with A solars, because A solars require 5,000 energy to build. So if you're already stalling, it's impossible, right? And so like here, you stalled a bit on that one, and you'll probably stall a bit more while you're eating. Oh, I guess you can eat these and it's kind of okay, but I still would say get a transport, fly your dude, and get these mexes up first, because you'll probably stall on this one and then you'll need to eat more of these. Your team is overflowing into you, which is awesome, but if they weren't overflowing into you, your E situation would be completely screwed. So like here, see how delayed these are? Now you're in a really bad situation where it's like, okay, do I eat my E solars, my A solars, and be even more E poor, or do I just sit here and wait? Right? And you start reclaiming your wind because you're like, okay, there's a bit there, but at 16 wind a second, wind is actually more efficient than A solars, just so you know. So it probably would have been better to just eat one of these for the 370, because that's only 75 energy, and each one of these is 16 because it's been at max. Another little thing you can do just for an optimization is you don't need this guy to wait there to finish. once he drops the blueprint, these guys can keep building it and you can just have your cons do it, and then he can walk to the next one. And as soon as that's done, just start it, or wait till this is 90% and then walk to the next one. Another thing would probably be pretty useful, because this is all spread out, is you could also get some butlers. Just like buy 2 butlers from this guy. You give him the 450 or 420 metal, and just have him guard him. And then as he upgrades these, you'd be better too. All right, I'm gonna speed up a little bit. What do we got here? All right, so you got your fusion. You almost never need the second converter after you get your first fusion. Like if you look at it, right, you're at 1200 and you're at -8. So when this is up, you won't even need the second one. And I guess you normally do fusion to nuke. I don't actually do very many nuke rushes. If you want a more refined build though, I think you could look at replays from row, mid row, and he's a common nuke rusher who's like 40 something, which could maybe help you refine. I don't hate it. Like I think the fusion makes sense because you're so E-starved. I think you could also potentially do it just with A-solars. I'm used to, on glitters, I would normally go A-solar straight into advanced fusion. But this is gonna be decent timing, right? You're gonna launch a nuke at what, like 14? Or no, 12, yeah. So yeah. Oh, you're gonna M-stall though. So why are you eating? You're barely filling this, right? You don't need to eat these. If anything, because you're using more than you're generating, you want to keep it because it means people are overflowing into you. And so you want to convert as much of their energy as possible. Just as an aside comment, I know a lot of the community plays straights and glitters. I think out of all the maps to nuke rush on, glitters is one of the worst. Especially as you play versus better players, because good players will pretty much always have a loaded anti by like somewhere between 13 to 15 minutes, and it's almost exclusively done by their tech position, who normally plays in middle. And so if there's a tech position in mid, his anti will cover like this, basically. Like it'll be like there, and so you might be able to get like a corner nuke there sometimes, but generally speaking, these bases are safe, and that means you can maybe nuke a front line here or a back line here. But once you start playing versus better players, I think it's really hard to successfully nuke rush because all these bases are so close. So you're gambling that none of these people build anti, which is like kind of risky. But I guess we'll see if it works out. Let's see. All right, so you're waiting for it to load, and you are floating a lot of metal. So what's the plan here? You're going to drop an A-solar. Okay, so you have metal, but you don't have energy. You generally never want to actually make A-solars in this position because an A-solar is 5,000 energy, and it only provides 75. So if you think about it, you're dropping 5,000 in, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to have a higher energy income right away. But you're not, because you're going to keep choking on E, because this takes forever to pay for itself, right? 10 seconds is only 750. So if you do the math, it's like by the time you want to eat these again, they've barely paid for themselves. In this situation, you could just drop a bunch of basic solar like here and here, because basic solar has no energy cost. See, it's 155 and 0, which means that you can drop a bunch and then just reclaim it later. You could also have these two guys boosting him. Another thing that's really easy to do and really simple is you get a transport, and your transport can pick up nanos, and you just have your transport pick up a nano and drop it next to him, and then pick the same nano up and drop it next to him and move it. So no anti-fired, which is awesome. This isn't a super early nuke, so it's kind of hilarious that no one on their team has anti. It looks like they just started to build it. So good targeting. I don't know if you scouted that or not, but targeting the blue player makes sense. Not having anti up is absolutely hilarious for these players though on a glitters map. Okay, so you fired your first nuke. Generally speaking, when you nuke rush, it makes sense to either fire it right away like you did, or stockpile 2 so that they don't have time to build anti. But it's glitters, so they're probably going to build anti anyway. So I like that. And then you can try to fire another one, which, well, shouldn't land, but I guess we'll see. what happens in the lobby. But let's see, what are you doing in the meantime while that's happening? You're still upgrading mexes and you're floating so much metal. In this situation, literally just you could just throw down solars or anything else, but you really need to be using this metal. I assume you're going to try to stockpile it and just go AFU after, which isn't bad, but you know, a nuke is so much energy to fire that you kind of want to be building more. It sort of sucks that you ate all your wind. I think you probably could have kept, like, you could have built more wind over here or over there. And wind has such a nice gradual buildup, right? It's only 175 and then it starts generating right away. So I would almost have kept building wind. You could even have, if you had bought butlers from this guy, butlers build wind really quick. So even while you're nuking, you could have built wind and then had it generate right away. All right, so let's see. Second nuke, where are we going? Hold on, while this nuke is launching. All right, and you start an AFU, cool. And no antis fire, hilariously enough. So there's what? There's only one loaded anti there. And you went for a frontline target. Okay. So I don't know if you had vision of that, but it's cool you killed this. But the fact that his 2 fusions and an AFU survived is super brutal, because this is where the real money is, right? And he still has all these, so he still has incredible energy income and incredible metal income. So that's awesome, right? I think that you guys were probably kind of getting rolled a little bit, and so by nuking their 2 top players, you did really good economic damage. So in a situation like this, especially on a map like Glitters, where there's so many, like, look how many anti-nukes there are now because you started nuking. You can just eat this and turn it into fusions. Like, if you have more build power, just eat it and turn it into fusions. You're also, well, your team is overflowing into you, thankfully, but if your team wasn't overflowing into you, look at your energy used versus income. This completely gimps your ability to scale. So I would probably, like, I would probably turn this off, like, don't stockpile anything for it so that it isn't using energy, and then just build AFUs. I guess you want to keep it to try to, like, nuke some other stuff, but I mean, if you've nuked twice versus competent players, you're not going to get a third nuke. The second nuke is lucky anyway. The third nuke means they're just, like, willfully throwing the game. Although I say that, and this guy doesn't have, oh no, he does. He's got 1 anti right there. Okay. So let's see. You're trying to nuke their other frontliner, and it is going to get intercepted. Okay, so this is the first nuke that you see that you're going to see an anti-hit. And I think that is actually a relatively good sign to be like, hey, if I need this metal to scale, I might as well eat this, because that's literally, this is literally an AFU, right? An advanced fusion is 97 and 70,000, and this is, right, a little less metal, more energy. So you could eat that and use it and have more build power and just convert this into fusions. I think you can definitely, there's an argument to be made that you might want to keep this so that you could, like, nuke frontline pushes if someone falls. But if you've been nuking, the enemy team should just, like, make umbrellas, and then you shouldn't be able to nuke the front really at all unless they're, like, asleep. So if you do nuke the front and it lands, that's cool. But I'd say as you start to play versus better players, you kind of just can't, like, you have to surprise with a nuke. Versus better players, it just kind of won't work. All right, let's speed this up a little bit. So, all right, this is death. Don't never do this. Your converters, if you hold on grid, it's space X. When these explode, they're going to do damage to everything around them. And if you space your AFUs and your converters on opposite sides like this, the death explosion, which is this one, the outer ring is if you self-D, the inner ring is if they get killed. It'll kill the nanos, but it won't kill the fusions. So if one tick runs in here and kills this, okay, you lose your converters, that sucks. You lose your build power, that sucks. But if a tick comes in here and kills this one, it's gonna chain to all of these, and all of those death explosions are going to hit your advanced fusion, and then your entire base will explode. Because look at an advanced fusion's explosion radius, right? So literally it's the difference between, okay, you lose some converters in that, but you keep the most expensive building in the game, which is an advanced fusion, or this gets hit and your entire base dies, right? Like your base will not survive a fusion dying. Everything is gone. All right, and you are scouting. I'm guessing you're scouting for your anti, which is cool. At this point, though, you should assume they have a fighter wall, so I think it's going to be really hard to get a scout unless you want to, like, mass a lot of them, but it's probably not the best use of... Womp womp. Best use of metal. So... red is holding decently well. Uh-oh. Spoke too soon. So your front's kind of starting to fall, and that's when you want to think about transitioning. So if we talk tech transitions and tech timings really quickly, let's think about it, right? So you already missed kind of like the earlier timing of, you know, the game is horrific. You go one fusion welder sniper or something. You have one AFU, so you can go one AFU Mara, and I don't think that would necessarily, I mean, that actually may have won the game there, but I think they have some snipers. And you can go like, say, 2 AFU, well, normally I would say like 3 AFU early tier 3, which would be like a Vanguard Razorback push. All right, what are we nuking here? Oh, no, anti's fired. Oh, never mind, anti fired. Yeah, so at this point, you can maybe, I would eat this nuke, right? That's an entire AFU that you could just finish. You don't need this thing anymore. You could make an argument that like, okay, he pushed red up and maybe I could nuke here, but that's not even really worth it in my opinion. I mean, it might be, but especially as you play versus better players, there's going to be umbrellas. All right, second thing. You don't have a T1 bot lab, which you want for spam, but also for res bots. So what you can do instead is you could literally just make a stork, pick up one of your construction turrets, and drop it off right here. Because like, look at that. There's 5,000 metal here. That's half an AFU. There's 6.3k here. Granted, you'd have to fight for it, but like you could literally just fly one of your construction turrets right here and just move him around and he'd eat all of that. You don't even have to drop a bot lab. And that means that instead of stalling on a fusion, or you were stalling on a fusion here, instead of stalling on the fusion there, you would have had a ton more metal and you'd be able to just scale faster. Did you mean to make 45 scouts? So something else that you could do at this point in the game is, it looks like your air player is competent, right? And he's got a lot of fighters. You could literally just go 2 AFU T2 air, make some fighters, but bomb with him, right? If you think about it just in terms of like certain, or just like basic numbers, these are arm. All right, this guy has 76 fighters. Your guy has 190. So you could send these scouts and you could go, okay, our air player has way more fighters than they do. Let me make bombers. You wouldn't even need to make fighters. Your air player will just overwhelm their air player and you could just bomb this, right? Does anyone even have flak? I don't see a single flak on the field. Okay, that's hilarious. Well, normally players should at least have some flak, so it'd be harder. In this, you could have just gone bombers right here. I just go T2 air, or you can even do T1 air if you wanted, and you could just bomb and you could kill that AFU stack. You could kill that AFU stack and the game would just be over. And even if they had equal numbers of fighters, you could just make more fighters so that you guys overwhelm, right? Like if he has 200 and he has 200 and you make another 100, you guys just crush it and then you can bomb. All right, so instead you're going to go 3 AFU into hovers. All right, so let's see. What are these doing? These are scouting. All right, they get a little bit of vision, but they run into the air. So, I mean, that's a super weak air wall, and you can recognize that from your scouts. I guess you were trying to search for anti, but you can see, right? Like, there's an anti there. I guess you don't see the other antis, but you can kind of just guess. At this point, they should have more. All right, so you're on 3 AFU. What probably makes the most sense is to go T3, right? And so you can go like double Vanguard Razor or something similar. Especially for Mountain, Vanguards are super strong because they're plasma, so if they're, and they're spiders. So your Vanguards can just climb up here and then they get the increased range and they can just shoot everything below. And then the Razors can kind of protect them from the low ground. Yeah, so that hit another, just eat it. Like, if you think about it, you're losing 8 metal a second, but you're losing more than that, right? Because that's an entire fusion's worth of metal. And one fusion is 1,000 energy, and a converter is 600 energy for 10 metal. So in addition to that, you're losing probably like, what, close to 15% of your economy on nukes that aren't doing anything. So you can just reclaim that. That's probably, if you'd reclaimed it earlier and built fusions, I'd say you'd probably have 2 more fusions. All right, so I like the Razorback play here. The only thing is you want spam with it, which you're building here. I mean, this is the thing. I like to have my build power here because as you go long, like if you have like a longer line of them, it makes more sense. You don't have a super strong economy yet, so ticks spamming in is awesome. I think that's fine. You don't have stealth detection. Whenever you're in teching like this in a position, I think the 3 things, once you have like at least 1 AFU, is you need anti-nuke, you need anti-stealth, like the Tracer or the Nemesis, and then if you have the metal, I always build just 1 Mercury, and you can kind of put it somewhere in your base where it has the range, and you put it on hold fire. Because a lot of times in these fights, what happens is like, most of the bombers die, but then there's only a few that are coming, and if you have it on hold fire, it won't actually shoot and target the fighters. Instead, you can just wait, and you right click on the bomber, and then when the bomber comes in range, it'll stop it. Oh, here we go. Does this nuke hit? Okay, so finally a nuke that hits, but you mainly just kill T1 and some pork. Actually, you didn't even kill the pork. Yeah, I think at that point, maybe you just could have gotten rid of it. All right, so what are we doing with our Razors? All right, you have a T1 bot lab, and a great reason to have a T1 bot lab is res bots. I would have like 10 to 15 res bots just back here, because look at this. Oh, where's it come? There's an AFU of metal just sitting on the ground here, waiting for someone to take it. So where are your Razors going? All right, unprotected Razors you need spam with. He's just gonna get degunned, and he's probably just gonna get degunned because you don't have ticks. If you have ticks streaming in here before him, he can't hide because the tick will reveal it. So one reason why you want spam is to get vision, to absorb shots, but also so that you don't get degunned when you send your T3. And if you had opened Vanguard, you probably could have gone like Vanguard, and then anything bigger here, like if there were snipers or Sheldons, the Vanguards can just snipe them and kill them. All right, so I think at this point you can kind of see, all right, these, well, I guess you should be able to push this in maybe. Let's see. If you come in with Red's push, you can probably push this. What are you doing in your base at the same time? All right, you're building another AFU. I'd probably queue up even more just so that you can micro a little bit better and not worry about it. So your Razors are here. Once you kind of see that they're on Razors, you kind of just want to stop Razors. Razors are really, they're an early T3 unit, but once you start to get into higher incomes, they're not going to be as strong, especially because on a map like Glitters, people are going to have snipers, or like snipers or starlights or banishers. So if you do want to use them like this, you need Vanguards. You know, like if you had Vanguards up here, your Razors can just chill, your Vanguards can shoot all this stuff, and then those units have to run up into you and they won't be next to their pork, right? And you can kind of pick them apart and kite. Just to remind you, this base design is an absolute death trap. Literally 1 tick, or like, yeah, there's still no oh my god, you guys have no stealth detection. So right now 1 gremlin could literally just like roll up. Let's see, it could roll up like, it could go that way, or I mean it might hit these mines, which is hilarious from yellow. That's an absolute death trap, by the way. He could sneak up here, come in, shoot, and then your whole base explodes. All right, So you look and you see, all right, this push didn't work. There's still so much metal on the ground here. So, dude, there's still a lot of metal on the ground. So at this point, you kind of want to scale. In terms of arm tech timings, if you have 4 AFUs, you can definitely go Thor. I'm not the biggest Thor fan. I think they're super overrated. Once you're at like 4 or 5, you can start making Titans. And I would say Titans are probably the easiest way to win this game, just because they're incredibly strong. Alternatively, you could just buy a core con from your air player, just get a T2 core air con, and you could go like Kargs to fight on the hills, or you could just go like Jug or Behemoth. Behemoths basically are the kings of ground fighting, but that's at the 5 AFU. Once you have more than this, right? Like once you're at about 7, it's lol cannon time. You did have an anti, so backup anti, which makes sense. All right, I like the butler spam here. That makes sense. I would probably get even more. Oh, okay. I don't like this at all for a couple of reasons. So first, you already have a nuke and you've been using it. So they've all been building anti. And once you get into T3, nukes don't actually do that much damage versus T3, right? They do 9,500 damage, which is a lot, but like, does anyone have a Thor? Here we can just look. A Titan has 70,000 health. So like, does it hurt? Sure, but it's not gonna kill it. And you have to hit the Titan. And so if you're shooting all these nukes in one place, it's gonna be really difficult to actually hit the T3. You really wanna be nuking economy, but you've already nuked. Look at how many anti-nukes are here. Look at all these yellow circles. If you're trying to nuke, say, any of these frontliners, like there's what? 1, 2, 3, there's 4 anti-nukes. You'd have to shoot like 25 nukes to overwhelm this. It's just impossible. So you would need to get rid of all of these. And there's gonna be a massive drain on your economy. I think what would probably make more sense in this situation is if you drop like 20 butlers and a T2 con and you come up here and you just build some pork, like some pulsars and a T3 lab, and then you keep pushing this way. I spam a lot more than that. I'll do like 7 or 8 bot labs, but that's a personal preference thing. Once your economy is a little bit bigger, like it is now, you really want to do a better mix from your T1 labs also. So like a common thing I'll do is like, I'll do like pawn, tick, pawn, Lazarus, pawn, crossbow, pawn, or something like that, right? Like where it ends up being like 5 pawns to 1 las, 1 crossbow, 1 tick, or maybe like a few more ticks mixed in there. But that means that if they're firing Junos, all your ticks don't die, right? So like, see how there's a Juno here? All your ticks that are coming in are just metal donations. They literally accomplish nothing. They just run in and they instantly die. So that means if you're spamming pawns, or you could, you know, do grunts in the same regard, they don't die. They actually get in, provide vision, do everything. Res bots are super value because you can just hotkey them, and then as you're pushing in, right, you can pull them back if you want, or when there's a bunch of metal, you can have them do that. They can also repair your frontline units. Well, these are all full health, but like he's damaged. If you had Lazarus here, they could repair. And it's never bad to have anti-air, right? Let me speed this up. So I think that if these were just more AFUs and you had prepped for a lol cannon, it would have been better. Okay, so you do make some crossbows. So that's awesome. I think that instead of doing it in like a massive group, you could just have a queue that like builds all of them slowly over time. Was this it? Oh yeah. All right. So, you know, you're not getting, I'm hating it less, but I still feel like if you'd eaten this earlier, you probably could have just used those resources to build up quicker. All right. You've got 7 AFUs. You're building your 8th and your 9th. That's lol cannon time, right? A lol cannon to fire at full capacity is about 25,000 energy, and you're quickly closing in on it. So you should drop, you can drop a bunch of butlers and then have mobile build power so that you can come up and build one like where this guy is, for example. You'd want to pork it first, right? So like you could come up, build some pulsars, build some more flak, but a frontline lull cannon can totally end the game here. Alternatively, if you didn't want to lull, I would say the air player has literally nothing and there's still not that much flak. So actually I take that back. Hold on, what's here? Oh, those are crossbows. What? All right, well, he's building a bunch of flak now, so never mind. But you could maybe, you could sneak in here and then bomb that. There's like crossbows. Well, I don't know, they have some mercs. You might be able to bomb, maybe not. Otherwise I just go T3. I just do like frontline gantry, start spamming titans. If there's like little units like this, you could do a mix that's like Titan Razor or something. So I think those nukes look really cool. And you're like, oh my God, I've got like 100 kills. But if you think about it, it's like, you're killing primarily cheap stuff. It's like, okay, you killed a ton of grunts, maybe a few snipers. That doesn't have the pushing power to end the game because they can just rebuild it at this point, right? Units are cheap when you're almost 40 minutes into the game. So you want to be able to push. Like this Titan can push and do a lot. If there was like, maybe if you did like one Titan, one Razor and some Vanguards to shell, you'd probably be able to do much, much better. You could also have a Thor mixed in just for Emps. But yeah, that would be my recommendation for that. These are all sitting. These are just kind of idle units. I would have brought them in and they could have supported to kill all the grunts for the Titans so that the Titans could snipe other stuff. Yeah, that Emp hits, so these Titans are dead. That's the one benefit of Thors, is if they land Emps, so you just need to make sure you're kiting with them. Yeah, all right, so you're there, dude. There's, hold on. There's 9. I mean, you're at 24, right? You want a lull cannon? You can lull right here. They've already started it. Do they have a lull yet? No. Why is no one lull? Oh yeah, here. They do right here. That's, at this point, you should be thinking lull cannon. Don't, so, okay, well, I don't hate this per se. I probably wouldn't do Thors. I would just do Razor Titan. Thors are really strong versus units weaker than them, but they're not very strong versus units stronger than them. And if you are worried about having to fight a bunch of Thors, literally just go Behemoth, right? They're cheap. They're 20,000 metal compared to like a jug, right? You know, a Titan's what, 13? But like Behemoths are just the king of the ground and they're unempable, right? They're emp immune. So if they don't have commanders and you're sending Behemoths down, they won't win. They're impossibly difficult to stop. All right, where's this nuke going? What are we nuking here? We are nuking. All right, you got his res bot, so that's actually super value, hilariously enough. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's working for you, but I think these ones, this combination of having other ones is going to be super difficult to stop because all these guys should have a ton of anti. Oh, I guess except for this guy. What is homie doing? Well, this guy I think is pretty new. He should have, generally speaking, better players will have like one anti-nuke every 15 minutes. So he should have at least 2. All right, let's speed this up. You haven't lull cannoned yet. So do you guys just lose to this lull? I guess it's not. All right, so their lull cannon needs to be farther up. Like this is a great lull cannon placement, and you can come up. You can come up here, build a few more, build anti-stealth, put down some pulsars and some pop-ups so they couldn't break it, and then just build your rag here and fire. Well, build a calamity, never build a rag. Again, unit mix, I would do that. I would also, at this point, I wouldn't keep building towards him. I would like build here and like put a wall or something. The problem is if you build like this, see how close you guys all are and see how these converters are right next to each other? Let's see. All right, these are gonna change. So if one of these dies, all 3 of you die. Right? That's just on the outskirts. I'm pretty sure a death here will chain. So these will chain, these will explode. It'll catch these will explode. These are gonna go there, but like this one's gonna explode and catch your AFUs. Your AFUs are gonna catch your converters and your other AFUs. So literally one will die here and everything would die. So build this way and kind of try to leave a little bit of a gap so that you guys don't kill each other. And on this side of it, instead of building AFUs, you could just build more converters. So you've got units here, but they're idling. So if you just push, you'd be able to do a lot more. And again, res bots, right? Like, let's see, where are some res bots? I mean, there's 24,000 metal on the ground right here. And even better, if you were slow pushing this and you got here and you beat this army, you could res this Titan. You could res both those Titans. You could res the Thor. Alternatively, you could go Weber like this guy did. Webers have awesome reclaim or build power now. They reclaim super fast, which is nice. All right, so we're kind of waiting on the Calamity. Did you guys start one yet? No, you have not. So a common place to put a Calamity on Glitters is like right here, because it'll be able to kill frontline eco with the high ground. And it'll have enough range that you can target the high ground here and the shells will go over and hit into the back line and you can kill. Okay, so here we go. Now you're pushing. You want to emp. You need to emp. So you have 2 emp missiles. As you're coming in, you need to launch. So you just come in and you go launch, 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 launch. Everything there will be stunned. You could stun those as well. And then you can just clean up really easily. I would also have more spam coming in here, to be completely honest. I'd have like more pawns, more everything coming in just to absorb shots and to run in here and to get into the back line. But this is good. You're running through, you can get this eco. This lol, dude, this lol is still stacked. That's insane. Okay. Always try to target converters first, but I think you're gonna kill them anyway, which is awesome. Is there just no commander here? Are these guys asleep? Well, there should have been a commander there to just degun all that, but I guess no one wanted to fly their comm over, which is funny. This guy could have literally built a transport, flown over, and killed your Thorns. Okay. So, he's gonna keep going. You're gonna keep going. Killing one there is nice. Kind of splitting these a little bit is nice. What is this dude doing? He should just cloak and come up and kill you, but I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah, here we go. So that should have happened over there. I don't know why it didn't. And the way you stop that is having more spam. So hold on. Let's look. Is this firing yet? This team literally should have just funneled all their resources into here, and this should have been done 5 minutes ago, and I should have been killing you. And you guys... So, he had some basilicas and a shield here, but he didn't pork it. If he had built, like, 5 pulsars and put Titans in front of it, you could have held this, and that would have been a good lol cannon position. Instead, it died. And they're just sending T3 straight down middle. Even if you're backline, I think it's never a bad idea to like build some pulsars or some bulwarks on the front line just to help. All right, here we go. Red knows what's up. He's on the behemoth train. So you can just see, well, hopefully you'll see in a second, like behemoths are in a class of their own when it comes to ground fights, right? They're easy to degun, they can't hit air, and they can get kited by jugs if the jugs are far away or the Titans are far away. But once they're up close, they have more HP than any other unit in the game, and they do massive AoE. I mean, this thing is tanking 2 Thors in a jug and got both of them to like 50%, 40%. Actually, even lower than that, right? So I would say if you do want to break it with units, just make behemoths. You have to make them from a forward lab because they're so unbelievably slow. But if you do, it's incredibly hard to stop them. I don't know if this guy's going to get in range. Oh, he stopped moving. I mean, can he just kill? Yeah, like, this dude is tanking jugs, titans, everything else. Easy. Dude, is this LOL still not? Okay, LOL is done. He doesn't have energy to fire. It's not... I don't know what this guy is doing. This poor guy has no idea what he's doing at all. For future reference also, even though you guys don't make a LOL, never make a Ragnarok. Always just ask your core player for a constructor and make a calamity, because a calamity is just better in every way. It has more range, it has more DPS, it's just better. So if you're at this point in the game, you can just say, hey, give me a core con, you grab him, and then you just make a calamity instead. So wait, do you guys actually lose this game? It seems like by killing that, you should maybe... Oh, I guess your front's weak and he's dead, so we'll see. Yeah, so here's the lull, and the lull's gonna end it, I guess. So lull kills this guy. Something it's... Oh, okay, so here's your big nuke. That's just kind of expected, right? Look at how many circles of anti-nuke there are here. These are all just like a drain on your resources at this point. You would either need like to have just the one that's firing, or you would need probably 20, and I don't think it's worth it to do the 20. This behemoth has just been tanking the entire army. Does he kill the jug? So here's another classic behemoth example, right? He killed that jug. He's fighting 4 jugs and he kills one, right? And a juggernaut is 9,000 more metal than a behemoth, but because he's walking into him, they have to fight him. What are you? So what are you making here? So you're still making Thors. Once you're at this point in the game, just stop making Thors. You're gonna make, I would probably only be making Titans. And you're making air cons, maybe to lull. Alternatively, if you don't want to do it with air cons, butlers are amazing because they're 140 BP and they're super fast. You can just drop the lab and then have them run over. So yeah, that lull cannon kind of killed their canyon, but you guys lost your canyon as well. You do another shot of 4 missiles. It does nothing. Okay, so here's yours. So again, this is where not a big thing, but like I think it's 400 extra range for a calamity, and when you're trying to get as much out of it as possible, right? Like that 400 extra range would probably let you hit blue instead, and it's higher DPS. Is there a core con somewhere we can look at? You should have a core con. Calamities 2660 6100, right? And this is, yeah, so it's slightly more DPS and it's 400 more range, which is massive. It's more energy to fire, but at this point that shouldn't matter. I think you would have won the game if you had just started spamming behemoths, because look at this dude's literally sending unsupported behemoths in and no one's degunning them or anything. Oh, he shouldn't. I wouldn't self-D it, but okay. Yeah, I mean, if there was support there, if you had like multiple behemoths and stuff backing them, like a bunch of titans backing them, you would have been able to push through mid, I bet. Alternatively, I mean, a lull cannon is a great idea, although they have so many shields, it'd be pretty difficult. It'd be super difficult, actually. I would also probably just build a bunch of flak, like up here with butlers or with consuls or something. Just like flak, 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 flak. Because a big bombing run would totally end the game. All right, jump back up to times 20. It's just standard T3 stuff. You have you have a couple of, I would build even more annihilators because it's an hour in. You need so much pork for this to survive, because it's not only that a juggernaut could come up and kill it, it's that when a jug dies, right, they have a massive death explosion radius. So even if it gets to like here and dies, it'll kill all your pork. So I probably would have built even more, and I'd have more units, right? You have Thors, and Thors can't man fight anything bigger than them. They'll just melt. Like Thors and Razorbacks are going to be useless if jugs come. All right, so you're firing at a shield. You need to fully hold, you need like 13 shields if a rag is sitting on you for a long period of time. So you could have just sat on him, but trying to kill the other lol makes sense. The old lol cannon duel. I like it. I like it. Okay. So a couple of things here. Let's slow this down a lot. You have enough shields and you have one lol cannon firing. Building a second one is totally useless at this point. One lol cannon is literally 25,000 energy to fire before Veteracy. Once it has Veteracy, it has reload speed, and it's even more energy. This thing's using 30,000 energy a second. Your total energy production is 40k. This can't even fire if you build it. It just doesn't have the energy. You need more AFUs. The other problem is that when you build a lol cannon, that 30,000 energy means that half your converters aren't firing anymore, right? All of these should be yellow, but a bunch of them are closed, or, you know, opening and closing, because your lol cannon is burning all of your energy. Oh yeah, there was the jug self-D. I missed it, sorry. Or did they nuke it? I guess they nuked it, and that's what killed it. So have anti-nuke on the front as well, but you almost never want to double lol cannon because you just won't have the energy to fire both. And always think about when you build a lol cannon, your economy just gets crippled because all the energy that used to be producing metal and be converted is changed. Like, look at your economy now. It's only 154, or, you know, or 226, whereas it should be 500 something. Did you kill his lol? So your lol cannon did quite a bit of work. I think, yeah, I mean, you killed him. You maybe could have sat on him longer, but I don't mind you trying to duel that. But here's the self-D. Oh, it's gonna kill all those too. Oh, maybe not. Oh, he canceled the self-D? That explosion, so you guys have built your stuff so close together that an explosion here chained, and then the mines exploded, and then the mines exploded back, and then it killed part of this dude's base. Anti-nuke, okay. It's lost. So I wouldn't say it's lost. I think that you should have just gone T3 and you should have not made Thors. You do make, so Mercuries are not bad. They have a very good situational place. Generally speaking, you only want a few of them, and you want them on hold fire, because if they're on fire at will, they'll just like kill fighters, and that's useless. You want them to kill bombers. Flak this close to your base isn't that useful, because by the time the flak can attack something, like when it's here, they'll probably kill it, but a lot of times the bombers can actually still drop their bombs and kill your base. And it's like, okay, you killed the bombers, but the bombers killed your base, so it's completely fine. Oh no, I'm super worried that this base is gonna go and it's gonna chain across. I think it would literally kill all of you. So just try to have space there instead. You could also throw AFUs on that side next time. So you have bot labs, right? You have 2 bot. Make res bots. Like, look at, if you could come here and res this, that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Thors are waiting to get resed if you brought 50 res bots, and 1, 2, 3, 4 jugs, 4 jugs and a Titan, right? And even if you didn't want to res them, you could come up and eat them so that they can't res them or they can't eat them. But I mean, that's like, how much metal is this? It's like 100,000 metal here, right? Just come up and eat it. Okay, I think this game ends soon. This has been an incredibly, incredibly long review. Let's see. So just T3 fighting each other. Red has the right idea. He's just spamming behemoths. And here come the scouts. So like you're nuking, but nukes won't do. Well, also like Titans aren't even that strong. Like behemoths. Behemoth is like 300,000, right? Your 9,000 damage nuke is just gonna tickle it. It won't care. And you can nuke pawns, but it's just not, it's generally not worth it. So here, red is doing it, right? Red is rezzing these. These are free jugs. He needs probably way more than that. Probably like 50 or something. Oh, here they come. But if he rezzes these, that's awesome. That's like a free army. I would say you could still pork this, throw down pulsars and stuff. Just spam. I would just spam juggernauts and titans, or sorry, behemoths and titans. That does. Uh-oh. Okay, that's dead. So red is still kind of holding this side, but there's a ton of titans here. And green has pushed in and is killing. More scouts coming. Lost caves. Uh-oh. In a situation like this, I think it also, well, there's a line of behemoths, so you guys are pretty much screwed. But a lot of times it makes sense, I think, to literally get like the air cons you had and just come up here and just be like pulsar, 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 pulsar. Well, you can't put in there, but like pulsars and pop-ups and stuff on the cliffs just to like help fight this. Because if any of this stuff gets in, I think you guys are just dead. Alternatively, their air player wasn't that strong. I think you could have gone, like, you could have gotten a lot more air and been able to do more. So here's the push on the side. You guys kind of knew it was coming, but this is where it's going to be pretty scary. Yeah, so you guys all built so close together that as soon as one of you went, you just exploded. I know it's an hour in, but wherever possible, kind of spread it. Also, you don't need to call your team trash. That's not necessary. You win some, you lose some, but, you know, everyone has good games, everyone has bad games. So yeah, just to kind of recap it, for some of the earlier stuff, right? Try to be a little bit more efficient with some of your early stuff so you can scale harder. Try to have bot lab out maybe a little bit sooner so that you can spam when you're sending Razorbacks or whatever else. For that initial T3, if you want to try to actually break Canyon, I would go like double, or like I'd go like 2 or 3 Vanguards and then Razorbacks, and you can just kind of like crawl forward with the Razorbacks on the cliff, or sorry, with the Vanguards on the cliffs and the Razorbacks below, and you can pick apart everything there. And if you have the bot labs, you can mix in pawns and anti-air bots. And so if you have ticks and pawns for vision, and then you have res bots to heal and eat all the wreckage, and then anti-air bots if they try to stop you with like shurikens, you'd be able to slowly push that. I think you probably could have won and killed this side and then pushed in and ended their base, just like with Vanguards here shooting him at like 35 minutes. If the game goes late, once you're at, say, 7 to 8 AFUs, you just make a lull cannon. You literally just say, hey, can I please get a core constructor? You fly here, you can bring some butlers or air cons, you can build nanos, you build a bunch of pulsars, some anti-nukes, some flak, you make a calamity, you shoot their economy, you win the game. Alternatively, when the game gets like this and it's like they have a lull, you can't build a lull to shoot their stuff, you just spam behemoths, I think, is probably the better plan. They still had like 4 commanders, so it's a little harder, but if you're spamming titans and behemoths, eventually you'll be able to break almost any front line. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all there is to say. Oh, and the nukes, right? One nuke is good. Building other nukes after is kind of pointless. I probably, after like your first nuke, after the first anti-stop you, I would just reclaim it and put it back into AFUs. Right? Like you had a really strong economy. And I think with, you know, you also could have bombed. I think with just slightly better unit choices and eating your nuke sooner, you definitely could have carried that game.